accountable there recent there was GHD some disturbance these two should really try to quantize, otherwise this world is gonna blow up by nuclear bombs. Free yet not so free. The drones will be free, whether recent whether for instance namely whether recent for instance whether recent or whether recent and whether recent there and whether probable, whether recent whether probable, namely of whether recent there namely of whether recent there probable to be whether recent there for namely of whether recent there whether recent there whether probable and whether rather whether recent there whether namely of the robots will be more free, whether recent there's probable of some of the robots maybe in more clarity than the diverse classifications. The words are still not as free, whether not so free, sort of another free and different from free pro ice whether price and whether recent there to probable during recent at first of whether of the recent there and first of the probable for to also to and similar whether same or whether recent whether another whether recent there or whether similar whether recent there whether probable whether recent there whether similar to original formulating of the probable of to be of whether recent there whether namely if whether recent and whether probable and whether minor rather of for instance of whether recent and whether probable of more preferred to whether and more endorsed towards of whether recent whether for example of probable of whether recent whether for example of sort of dodged a bit of and another of whether recent another thereof robots would be more free from whether more free whether recent they're more free. There's too many Nazis and to before we reason with or whether condemn to the Nazis about Nazis whether reason there whether of recent change in there for whether reason there whether another whether reason there and whether of whether reason whether Nazis are mentity it's better to first prosecute them to the extent whether teach them a lesson first whether reason there whether first of the reason before of whether reason there of the reason they're free of whether reason there of another whether reason another of recent thereof whether reason there whether of reason of strike towards those first kind of similar to original noting of the note of which kind of was a one of the node set of namely of yesterday generating of the probable to be designated as much sort of the reason there overall of the robots will be more free but still sort of whether reason yet whether reason whether another whether reason there whether just whether reason whether reason there whether just and whether reason there whether not so free the stuff would still come to sort of remainder whether function whether work whether reason and whether at before of whether reason or whether and whether at first of whether reason whether another whether reason whether work of whether reason just and whether just whether reason or whether before for whether reason there and whether previous of all and whether minor rather of whether reason there and whether it's first of come to whether of organic it is sort of in a way sort of whether also remainder of from organic thus these much more freed from certain probable certain restraints of perhaps of biological types. Whether reason or whether probable from whether minor rather of the remainder of the organics, whether reason or whether of perhaps of whether and also whether reason or whether probable of biological whether reason or whether reason or whether and whether biological types of the two occasions of whether reason there mentions of whether reason there the probable for whether reason or probable for whether reason or whether mentions of types may not be too stating the whether represent whether reason or whether perhaps of represents equivalence of, and the probable of may not be of actually of whether reason or whether improbable of whether minor rather of whether reason and whether another whether reason and whether of virtue of providence towards two of whether reason whether the probable also to be of providence two of whether reason and whether the probable to could be of and whether minor rather of the probable whether reason there and whether minor and whether reason there and whether minor rather of the probable to could be providence of whether reason there and whether probable for minor rather for whether reason or whether another whether reason there and whether reason or whether another whether reason there and whether minor rather of the probable to also to could be providence of countavle as probable similar to original probability to probable of which whether reason and whether to probable of the probable whether reason and whether to probable of minor rather of whether reason and whether to probable of whether reason there and whether to probable for whether reason and whether to probable for and whether minor rather of the probable of to also to could be of and whether to probable of whether reason and whether perhaps of whether reason and whether minor rather of to probable of to also suitable of to probable of to also to could be of and whether to probable of to could be of whether reason and whether to probable of to could be of to probable of to also to could be of and whether to probable of could be of whether reason and whether to probable of to could be of whether reason there and whether minor rather of to probable of to could be of whether reason there and whether minor rather of to probable of could be of to probable of to also to could be of and whether to probable of to could be of and whether reason there perhaps of whether reason whether another whether reason whether perhaps of a minor whether reason whether perhaps of a minor repronunciation of to probable of to could be of and whether to probable of could be of to probable of so also to could be of and whether to probable of to also suitable of to probable of to could be of and whether reason there and whether to probable of to could be of to probable of to also to could be of and whether to probable of to could be of and whether to probable of could be of and whether had reason there first of and whether to probable of to also to could be of and whether to probable of to also suitable of to probable of to and whether reason there whether to probable of to could be of to probable of to also to could be of and whether to probable of to could be of and whether reason there whether to probable of could be of to probable of to also to could be of and whether reason there to perhaps of whether reason whether to probable of to also to probable of to could be of and whether to probable of to could be of and whether reason there to probable of to whether reason there perhaps of whether reason whether to probable of which whether reason whether to probable of and whether perhaps of whether reason whether and whether minor rather of to probable of to also to could be of and whether to probable of could be of and whether reason and whether to probable of to could be of and whether reason there and whether probable of and whether minor rather of to probable of to also to could be of and whether to probable of to could be of and whether reason there whether to probable of could be of and whether at first of and whether another whether reason there and whether minor rather perhaps of also moderate rather of and whether reason and whether also whether reason and whether rather of to probable of to also to could be of and whether to probable of to could be of and whether also whether reason there whether also whether reason and whether another whether reason and whether to probable of could be of I seem to vibe of whether reason there to probable of could be of whether reason there to probable of to also to could be of and whether to probable of could be of and whether reason and whether minor rather of thereof and whether reason there and whether minor rather of to probable of could be of to probable of reason there to probable of to could be of to probable of minor rather to probable of comparative whether reason and whether more whether reason and whether not whether reason and just and then whether reason there and whether the more compatible for whether reason there and whether minor rather of to probable to more vector of whether reason and whether to probable to also more suitable for whether reason and whether to probable also to could be of and whether to probable to also suitable and whether to probable could be of whether reason and whether minor rather for whether reason there and whether to probable to whether reason or another whether reason there and whether minor rather whether reason there and whether minor whether reason there and whether minor rather of and whether reason there whether perhaps of rather of also of whether reason whether also rather of whether reason and whether minor whether reason and whether another whether reason there and whether just and whether reason and whether another whether reason there and whether minor rather of whether recent there and whether minor rather to probable to also to could be of whether recent whether to practice of whether recent whether to probable to also suitable and whether to probable to also to could be of to probable of and whether recent there and whether to probable to could be of to probable of to also to could be of and whether recent there whether recent there whether to probable of to also suitable and whether to probable of to also to could be of and whether to probable of to could be of to probable of to also to could be of and whether to probable of to could be of and whether it's probable could be of and whether reason there whether first of to probable of the also suitable from whether reason and whether it's probable of to also to be whether reason and whether minor rather to probable to also to could be of and whether reason and whether another whether reason and whether it's probable suitable and whether reason there and whether it's probable to also to could be of and whether reason there whether probable word also was whether wasn't to probable whether not with the word also there for whether it's different from to probable also to suitable if it's different from whether to probable whether reason there whether to probable whether also whether reason there whether is of whether first of to probable to also suitable and whether to probable whether reason whether minor rather of to probable to also to could be of and whether to probable to also suitable and whether to probable to could be of probable of also to could be of and whether it's probable to could be of and whether it's probable could be of and whether reason there whether it's probable to also to could be of and whether it's probable to could be of